Hey, hey, hey! It's the first ever real estate marathon. I'm your host, Jazz Tackart.
Thank you, Mark Weisleder, for joining us today on the first ever 12-hour real estate marathon. I know you were going to be coming in live, but you're tied up. You're a very, very busy man. So I wanted to thank you for doing this through Zoom.
It's my pleasure, Jazz.
And just for everybody who's watching and listening right now, a lot of you know this gentleman because you've dealt with him already, him and his team at realestateLawyers.ca. However, for the ones that don't know, Mark, in the real estate world, you had to have been living under a rock because this gentleman is the go-to real estate lawyer for BNN, Toronto Star, CTV News, Global. It goes on and on and on and on. But more importantly today, we're going to be speaking about all things assignments. And really from the perspective, Mark, I wanted to have you on so you can enlighten our investors about the process when you're assigning as the assignor and the assignee a new condo purchase, because what a lot of people have already just come across, our marathoners, as I'm calling them today, they've already seen a product launch on an exclusive opportunity that we've launched, which is a condo project. It's a new build, and we do have the incentive in place from the builder that the purchaser is allowed to assign the contract. And on kind of the street, we call it flipping the paper, so to speak. But let's start off kind of high level here, Mark. What is an assignment?
Thank you, Jazz. So, as you said, many people will buy a condo from a developer at a new product launch. And it's understood that the building will be ready perhaps in 3 or 4 years. And people will, of course, be checking the reputation of the developer, which I know your company does, before you get involved, to make sure that that building is going to be built in 3 to 4 years so that they can, in most cases, actually make money. And that's very important due diligence to do. But the fact is, 3 to 4 years is a long time, and people's lives can change. And while you may have had the intention to move into this unit in 3 or 4 years, or perhaps to rent it out as an investment, life happens. And you may need to sell that unit before you close in 3 or 4 years if something has happened with your life. And that's why when you sign that contract, in the first place, you need to have what we call that right of assignment, so that if it happens, you have an avenue to excuse yourself from the deal without forfeiting all your deposits. And when I hear that this new product launch has the right of assignment, that tells me that you've already thought of this for the benefit of your buyers so that they can go into this knowing that if their circumstances do change in 3 to 4 years, they can look to you and your brokerage to help them find someone to take over.
So great segue, because what we help a lot of our original purchasers, so I'm going to call them the assignors, essentially, we do it about 30 to 40 times a year. So it's a fully turnkey process that we help the original purchaser assign the contract to this new purchaser / assignee. Now, as an assignee, there is a huge win for an assignee as well, because what we see those 30, 40 times a year is that money is left on the table by the original purchaser because they know they need to essentially leave some meat on the bone for the new investor. And so as an assignee, you can also pick up a project that's almost being built. Okay, it's almost built, sorry. We're coming up to probably a year till the building's going to be built in those circumstances, as well as you can take advantage of the fact that there's meat on the bone, along with the fact that, well, we kind of can forecast a little bit better what the interest rates and the cost of borrowing is going to be. So as an assignee now, Mark, what are some things that the assignee needs to know about?
Well, first, before we get to the assignee, I did want to mention something about that original purchaser.
Yes.
Because most projects say that while you can assign, you're not going to be allowed to put that property on the MLS system because the builder may still have some units for sale and they don't want competition. So
Sure.
It's extremely important that you're using a brokerage that has a tremendous number of buyers available that they can introduce to the original buyer for the assignment. Because if you don't, then you may not have the practical ability to assign. And that's one of the reasons why when you say you take care of that original buyer, it's because you have this pool of investors always coming to you as well. The benefit for an assignee is that the building is now almost finished. So you're not guessing, is the building going to be finished? We've all seen too many examples where builders started out with good intentions, and then 2 years later, their circumstances changed, the project got canceled, and all they had to do was give back the deposits to the original buyers. So all those dreams of profits, gone. When you come in as an assignee, the profit or the building is going to be ready. So you know what you're getting. And it's easy to do comparable shopping with other new units there. And so, as you said correctly, for most of these new buyers, they probably will get a discount over what is available in some of the resale market at the same time, knowing they're getting brand new and helping out the seller. So for the assignee, as long as they're completely protected and understand the issues regarding an assignment, it is an opportunity in most cases to, as you say, share a little bit with the seller in getting a little bit of a reduction to convince you to buy here instead of another resale building.
I like to say that it's one of the best win-win situations, right, Mark? Because as the assignor, you're going to take advantage of the profits because of the market appreciation that we all see, especially if you bought very early in the process with the builder, like first access pricing, something that our marathoners are very aware of already. But also for the assignee, making it a win-win that they're going to all the points that we just spoke about, the fact that you can now touch, see, and smell the building, the fact that you're going to be able to take advantage of the mortgages, the mortgage rates at the current time, as well as money being left on the table. Now, what about HST implications? We hear a lot about this, Mark, from the assignor and the assignee's perspective.
Okay, so let me try to explain to you when a condominium is built and the HST implications, because I get this a lot. So when you walk into a builder's project office and you're buying a unit, they always say the HST is included in the price. So what that means is that the HST rebate that we hear so much about is actually included in the price, and it varies depending on how much you pay for your unit. So as an example, if you bought a unit for $400,000, in the real price before HST, in this example, is closer to $378,000. HST, 13% on top of 378, is approximately $49,000. So the real price at this level is about $427,000. However, there's an HST rebate associated with this that is approximately $27,000. And so when you sign the contract, what you're saying to the builder is, I'm moving in, and although I'm entitled to that $27,000 rebate, I'm going to give it to you, the builder, on closing, which brings the price down to $400,000, and the builder collects the $27,000 from CRA. That's how it works in principle. But let's say you're an investor. If
Mhm.
you're an investor and you plan to rent the unit, the builder doesn't get that 27,000. And so on closing, you're going to have to pay not 400, but 427. And then after closing, the buyer has to apply for that 27 directly from CRA. And there are rules about that application, but that's the process.
And sorry, Mark, how long does that usually take to get the money back? I usually quote anywhere from about say 2 months to 3 months.
That's a good guideline. 2 to 3 months is usually what it takes. I happen to work with and know a rebate specialist who's the fastest there is in the country, and I always refer my clients to them as well to make sure they get it as quickly. Now, let's say you have a situation where somebody bought the unit a few years ago, and now they're doing an assignment. And let's say the new buyer who's taking over, they want to move in. So they say, I'm moving in, so I should be able to transfer that rebate to the builder. But unfortunately, with an assignment, in most cases, the builder says, we'll let you take over, but you're going to still have to pay the HST up front because it's a different owner than the one who originally purchased. So what I warn any new assignee is that you may have to pay this extra HST rebate when the building is registered, and that number can range, depending on the price, 21 to 27,000, that amount, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You'll pay that extra to the builder, but then you're going to be able to apply for it back yourself after closing. Now, a few builders may recognize the new buyer for the HST rebate, but in my experience, many don't. So when the assignment contract comes in, I tell them right away, you're going to have a little bit of extra money left over at final closing, but as you said, within 2 months afterwards, you'll get the money back.
Well, and I'm glad that we're going into it with so much in so much detail, Mark, because I think the last thing that we like to hear, and you as well, and what we unfortunately do hear in the marketplace from purchasers and investors and sellers as well, is I didn't know about that. I didn't hear about it. So at least if we can, like nobody really likes surprises. Well, at least the ones that the ones that cost us money for sure, right? In that sense. And so I'm glad that we're spending so much time on the HST implications. Overall, from an assignor and an assignment perspective, is it safe to say that as the assignee, you're essentially stepping into the shoes of the original purchaser from the one that bought from the builder?
That's correct. And that's really important to remember, because in every builder contract, you're paying that all-inclusive price, right? It says 400, 500, HST included, but then there's a whole bunch of additional charges that you agreed to pay. And those additional charges are always extra. Now, I know that your brokerage does a very good job with a project to try to put caps on a lot of these adjustments. Like the biggest one is development charges, because they can run tens of thousands of dollars. And I notice with many of your projects, it says right in it that the buyer will pay a maximum $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 development charges, whether it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or more. So this way, when a buyer goes into a new project, they already have a good idea how much is my total charge is going to be besides that all-in price. So you see, as an assignee, when I have to look at the contract, I say, well, I understand the assignment. We have that HST to talk about, but I also have to look at the builder contract to see how many extra charges are you going to inherit when you take over the assignment, so that I can say to the new buyer, expect to pay this much at final closing. Yes, you owe money to the builder. some additional charges, and usually the profit you have to pay to the assignor.
Now, most of the marathoners that are watching now, there is some new people to our world as well. They might not be doing this with REC, and that's perfectly fine. However, if they are doing this on their own, we talk a lot about, and we've been speaking about it earlier in this today as well, is that tie up the property and then do the due diligence. At least tie it up, but make sure that you have conditions in place in the agreement that allows you to tie it up and get back your deposit. Are you, like, in your experience, when it comes to assignments, Mark, do you see conditions like conditional upon my lawyer's approval, conditional on financing? There's not going to be a home inspection or a condo status report in this situation. What are those one or two clauses / conditions that an assignee can use to protect themselves?
Well, it goes without saying, there are issues for both the assignor and the assignee. And so, to me, every assignment, no matter who the brokerage is, has to be conditional on the assignor lawyer and the assignee lawyer review and approval. Because there are a lot of issues that buyers and sellers, the assignor and the assignee, need to understand before they waive. And another reason for the financing condition is many builders will not give the approval unless they know the new buyer has the money, a commitment to close. So if I could just start with the seller, the assignor. A lot of people don't appreciate, but there are HST and income tax issues facing the assignor. So first, income tax. Somebody bought a unit a few years ago, and they may be making $100,000 profit today on the sale, which is great. CRA has looked at this gain as income, not as a capital gain, because CRA sometimes takes the position you never really own this unit and you're flipping it. So if that's the case, we're not going to call this a capital gain. So now you see that 100,000 profit, you're paying income tax on the whole amount instead of just the capital gain, which would be 50,000. So this is one of the reasons you need to speak to an accountant.
I'm so glad that we just actually heard Jeff, our accountant, just recently, just before a couple of slots before you spoke.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy that we went through that as well.
As a lawyer, I can explain this, but everyone's income tax situation is different. That's why they have to go to their accountant as well. There's a little bit of a tricky part regarding the profit itself. So let's say we're talking about that 100,000 profit. Under the rules, if you were buying this unit originally to move in good faith yourself, and then you had a change of life circumstance that you could prove and you had to sell, you would not have to charge HST on the profit to the new assignee. However, if you were buying this as an investment and you had to change your mind, you would have to charge HST on the profit to the new buyer. So you see that $100,000 profit, you would have to charge $113 in order to pay the HST. And unlike the builder HST, this does not get rebated. So you see, as far as the assignee goes, they're paying an extra $13,000 and they don't get any of it back. And so in my experience, I explained to the seller, really, your 100,000 is closer to 97 or 98 or 87 or 88 plus HST, and you deal with it with your accountant. So most sellers have to appreciate that their profit will likely include this HST, because most buyer assignees, they don't want to pay it because they can't claim any of it back. So you see, there's lots of issues with tax, HST, additional charges that the assignor and the assignee need to understand first before they waive all their conditions.
And that's why we bring someone like you on board right from get, because we want to make sure that you look through the whole project, all the agreements, as well as when we're assigning. We want to make sure you're looking through that whole process. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome, Jazz. And I do a lot of these, as you know, and I act for a lot of assignors, a lot of assignees, and we're very quick with our turnaround. As you know, we review agreements very quickly.
Couple of
Our
days.
services, we provide remote signing services or mobile, whatever is good for people to sign paperwork. And buyers love working with our firm because we're a bill payment at every bank. We're the only law firm. Bill payment means you can put the closing money in my trust account at every bank. The
As a
same
bill
thing you
payment.
pay a phone bill
I love it.
online. Whereas, and most people could appreciate this. Today, if you want to close a deal, you got to line up at a branch with a mask and wait for an hour to get a draft. You don't do that with our firm. So we technologically, we're very proud of the advances we've made, but at the heart of it is still, it's service. You've got to be available to review agreements, give clients advice, and get their deals closed in a timely manner. And that's what we try to do at all times.
Mark, you're the man. Thank you so much. There's a reason why you're the go-to guy in the country, and definitely the go-to guy when it comes to REC. Just thank you for everything you do and all the content that you put out there, by the way. Keep doing it. It's refreshing to see a real estate lawyer actually put himself out there, and you've been doing it for years on years. And so thank you for that as well.
You're very welcome. And I'll just say to everyone, if you have a question, it's pretty simple. Mark, M-A-R-K, at realestatelawyers.ca, and I'll get back to you. Okay? Well, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your very successful day.